Make no attempt to reload your device. You are now entering the Hellhole.
Hello! La la la. I got my Christmas hat. It's still technically Christmas. You can't tell me otherwise. Welcome to the Hellhole. We're back. It's a very late December night. Oh boy, I'm tired. I'm all kinds of discombobulated, but you know, time rolls on. We gotta reconvene because the year's almost over, and there was some new game trailers in December, and I figured, you know, why don't we check them out? These are some of the things that are interesting me at the moment. I guess we might as well just get right into it. Hopefully everyone had a nice Christmas. Hopefully my audio's all right. This is very shambolic as always. You know, if you've been in the Hellhole, you know how this goes. You know, you can see on the screen, it's Quan Chi. Mortal Kombat 1, if you have MK1, maybe you spent Christmas with Quan Chi, the latest downloadable character from the Combat Pack. We've been doing this, since Mortal Kombat X. This is about the 5th game from NetherRealm Studios to do this sort of DLC character cycle. I think we're all used to it. Nobody's thinking about it too much, but I guess people are starting to be a little bit more cognizant of the value and the costs involved. Obviously, Mortal Kombat 1 has been a bit troubled, but it's getting there, and I think Quan Chi, good addition. You know, I'm digging this. I'm a little bit unsure about all this tentacle stuff, okay? We got to address, Quan Chi shows up in story mode as human. You know, he's not the pale sort of necromancer for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's never really addressed, I don't think, or explained. Did we need an origin for why he's so pale? I just assumed he's a pale guy. But in any event, he shows up, he kind of... Squidward. Everybody's thinking Squidward, surely. And now he's got tentacle moves. Do they know? They know what they're doing, don't they? This is like a whole Quan Chi Squidward thing going on here. I guess the implication is there's some sort of Lovecraftian old gods. He's opening portals. He's accessing these ancient beings. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really think of Lovecraft in Mortal Kombat. I guess Mortal Kombat has lived so long, and you know the kids, the inmates are running the asylum these days. So I guess things are just coming together. Does it make sense for Quan Chi to be like a Lovecraftian horror guy? It kind of feels right to me. As much as it's this sort of new, it feels like a new sensation. I can't think of any references in the past that would have really inspired that, but it does sort of feel like, you know, he's the guy that kind of makes some sense. I might have liked a new character. I mean, sometimes when you take those shifts with these established characters, I think Mortal Kombat has a tendency now. It's like it's starting to change its characters and redefine them. You know, it's not a wild change. It's still clearly Quan Chi. This is not a particularly offensive change to the character in my mind. But I always just think, could you have built an interesting new character around that? I'm trying to think. There's a few examples of that, but nothing is really coming to mind right now. I'm drawing a complete blank. I mean, I even thought that to some degree with Kotal Khan when he got that Puma move in Mortal Kombat 11. I always thought, could you have built a character like that? I've always admired the fact that Nightwolf hasn't become a literal werewolf, because I feel like that's such a... I mean, the Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie kind of did it. He turned into a wolf, and it's sort of like an obvious idea. I think they're going to do it at some point, honestly, but I've always admired that they didn't, and I've always kind of thought a werewolf character could be something new to explore. They did the vampire with Natara. A werewolf type character seems very natural. You know, I really like what they did with Kotal Khan, and I sort of like wouldn't want to take away from that. Kotal Khan is like a tricky character because he's got too much going on almost. You know, he's a blood god, he's a sun god. Obviously, you know, you've got that basic sort of Aztec facade. He's got a Puma thing, he's got these totems. You know, the totem thing fits in with the Aztec thing, and I guess you could go with the sun god, but then you got the blood god. He's got a lot going on. You throw in this like Puma move, and it's sort of like, are you giving Kotal Khan a few too many gimmicks? Could you maybe work with what he's got? And I don't know. I like them all. That's the problem. I'm compromised. I'm biased because I like it all. I think he's a great character. He might be my favorite Mortal Kombat character right now. That's the insane thing. I would really love to see... I mean, they've said that the DLC is going to be the longest support period that they've done so far for a NetherRealm Studios game. I believe Mortal Kombat 11 was the longest and certainly the most. I think it only just went beyond Injustice 2, which was the most before that. Essentially, each game they've been adding just a little bit more. Mortal Kombat 11 really took it further with the story, and we know there's going to be another story DLC release for Mortal Kombat 1, so, you know, I would love to see Kotal Khan get in there as a playable character. I don't know how many characters we're going to see. I mean, Mortal Kombat 1 was framed as like a 30th anniversary celebration, so it would be good to see as many characters as we could possibly get in there, but, you know, you don't want everyone. You want these games to be fresh, so, you know, sometimes it's nice when some characters get dropped out, let them focus on new characters. We got the cameo system kind of blurring the lines there. So there's a couple of characters that are sort of in both, and you could see more in both. There's still that sort of issue of, like, Johnny Cage was announced as a DLC cameo fighter, and now there's talk that maybe it's going to be Janet Cage, one of those sort of, like, wacky... alternate reality kind of things, or different timeline things. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I have a whole lot to say about Quan Chi. I think I kind of like the look. You know, the costume is looking good. We've got sort of that bluish teal, which feels like a nice throwback to sort of, you know, Mortal Kombat 4 Quan Chi. He's not quite as armored as he was back then. Presumably there'll be some costume options, maybe that throw back to the MK4 look. Probably something bringing back sort of like that Deadly Alliance look where he's the shirtless sort of... Why in my mind am I thinking Tartan? Was it Tartan? I don't think it was actually Tartan. He's not a Scotchman. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, Quan Chi, you know, basically what you expect. Looks kind of cool. I wish he looked a little bit more like the classic Quan Chi, and I feel like that generally with Mortal Kombat 1. I wish they were a little less... reliant upon like Instagram models and stuff like that, you know, mere mortals. I liked the artificial elements and just the design elements, and I'd just like to see a bit more consistency. I think back to like the Mortal Kombat Conquest TV show with Adoni Meropis, I believe his name was. He was quite a good, reminded me more of the game model. Maybe not quite as lanky as Quan Chi got over the years. I feel like once he took that armor off, he was quite a lanky guy, which was kind of interesting. You know, kind of it somehow worked with the character that he's a little bit more about the mind. He's about his sorcery and stuff like that. He's not like a big muscly guy. I like that. I dig this fatality with like these shards of glass. That's kind of interesting, and it's almost you know, it reminds me of like those science displays you would maybe see. In like a museum or something where, or like a, you know, museum of biology or something where you've got sort of like the human slides of like the brain or something like that, or, you know, maybe more. Do they do that for like the full body? Maybe they do. I feel like I've been to maybe like the science Where have I been? I've been places where those kinds of things were. I don't know what that was. That wasn't a museum. It was more like a lab. I've been around, guys. Don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. The point is, Quan Chi's looking pretty decent. I don't know. Mileage is going to vary, like how you feel about Mortal Kombat 1 right now. Overall, I don't feel great about it, but I'm sort of getting used to it. Interested to see, like, what's the next DLC story do to the overall makeup of things? What does the next group of DLC characters do to the overall makeup of things? Because I thought Aftermath took Mortal Kombat 11, which was very strong, and just injected the right elements to make it a little bit better, a little bit more appealing. I thought that MK11 has a bit like Mortal Kombat 1. It has that underlying irritating thing of like it's rewriting stuff, it's alternate timelines. All of that is just getting so tedious, so sick of it. MK1 is the zenith of that. MK1 is like, stop, no more. Make it stop, please, turn it off kind of vibes. MK11, I was sort of able to deal with it, find the good. And MK11 still felt like it was constructing a lot, whereas MK1 is it's so bound by past storylines, timelines. You know, like it's bound by its comparison to what it is consistent with. It's taking place in a past period of time. The entire cast are past characters. Some of them are sort of rejiggered and things like that. So it's inevitably a victim of comparison. I don't want to be doing that. At least MK11, it felt like it had a lot of new stuff. Chronica, I thought was kind of interesting. I was enjoying the Kotal Khan stuff. I did sort of like the conflict over the throne and the Civil War elements that were sort of underlying from Mortal Kombat X, maybe less so in MK11 really. But I like the way Katana was sort of Kotal Khan seceded the throne, although man, they had something good with Kotal Khan and they just did not commit to it. Don't know how I feel about that. Quan Chi, it's out there. You can get it, whatever. Peacemaker's coming. I don't care about guest characters. It's lame. It's generally lame. I don't care. DC characters. I'd say just like save it for a proper crossover. And years ago, I wrote an article about just the way that the hot. At that stage, it was really about the hot fix and the patches and stuff. But essentially, like if you don't buy Quan Chi, you still might face Quan Chi online. You might be fighting Quan Chi online. I think they work. I know they work. They work the DLC characters into the Living Tower system, so you could actually play as a DLC character even if you don't have a DLC character, which is a long way of getting to the fact that essentially whether you have these DLC characters or not, they're in the game now. They're in your game. And the potential is there to do sort of like release a Mortal Kombat, release an Injustice, build them foundationally to be able to interact. And essentially you could create a digital crossover between the two. So rather than burning a new release on Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe, which was not a popular game in the end, it sold well enough. I'm sure there would be plenty of people who would buy a new one. But I feel like you can potentially please more people by just letting everyone pick and mix kind of thing. If you want certain DC characters maybe in your Mortal Kombat game, maybe there's a way to like a la carte pick the characters individually. Like it would require a lot of infrastructure, and I don't know if they're as inclined to get that nitty gritty about it. But if you could create a Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe crossover that doesn't require necessarily a single title, I think that's very interesting. If you could cross the games over, so it becomes almost like Mortal Kombat 1 versus Injustice 3. And we do know that after the story mode comes along, Ed Boon has said there's a big surprise. We don't know what that is. There's rumors of another Mortal Kombat game of some kind, and I do feel like we're massively overdue, like an adventure game or something, like a Special Forces, a Shaolin Monks. Shaolin Monks is the one everybody looks at. There's always a lot of talk about the Conquest mode from Mortal Kombat Deception, which was sort of, a little bit different. Armageddon's Conquest mode felt a bit more like Shaolin Monks, so something like that anyway. Some sort of adventure mode, or adventure game, I should say, would be really nice. Again, I don't know, like maybe is that something that becomes like a downloadable component of Mortal Kombat 1, which, could you also access it individually? They've got Onslaught on mobiles. That's kind of doing a little bit of a story-driven experience. You've got the Invasions mode with the sort of Mesa board game kind of things. I don't know. There's lots of things going on with Mortal Kombat. There is always, I mean, sometimes the frustrating thing about Mortal Kombat as a franchise is it has this infinite potential. You can always see these incredible incredible designs for like spin-off games and storylines and characters. Even the dregs. Like people like to shit on like Suhao, Dairao, Darius. These characters. You can. It does not take a lot of effort for a fan to look at those characters and see a lot of potential. I'm a long-time Mortal Kombat fan. I see the potential myself. I'm trying to access a little bit of that potential in the Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer timeline, which is something you can go check out now on the YouTube. There's a link in the About section of Twitch. If you're already on YouTube, just look around. There should be a playlist very easily accessible from the channel. Because I didn't love Mortal Kombat 1. I thought the story kind of sucked. And I decided, well, what would I come up with? Let's try to find a solution. How could Mortal Kombat 1 have been better? I took the basic premise that it's a new timeline rebooted by Liu Kang. I accepted that much. You kind of give him that much. I tried to come up with a new story. In doing so, I've kind of gone with my own roster. You can go check it out. You probably know all about it. If you've been around the Hellhole, and if you haven't, go check it out. We're up to chapter 10. I was hoping to get the next chapter up sometime soon, but there's been a whole drama with I can't use editing stuff because I'm having issues with my email, and it's just this tangled web. We'll deal with it in the new year, I'm sure. I'm working on it as fast as I can. It's just worst time of year for that kind of thing to happen. I didn't mention Chameleon, the cameo Chameleon. A little disappointed that it's very much like she's got the Melina move, the Katana move, the Jade move. It's very much the Chameleon of the Mortal Kombat trilogy game where she first appeared, where she's just stealing moves, palette swap city. The new design, I don't know. The bob is a little bit weird, and I guess she's Umgadi, and I sort of like the Umgadi concept, but it's weird. It's so obviously cribbed from the Black Panther stuff, and it just doesn't sit right with me. I would have liked a Chameleon who was maybe a little bit more in keeping with Armageddon, where it felt like there was at least an attempt. I mean, I don't really mind that, to be honest. The design is fine. I'd like to see Chameleon be more in keeping with Reptile and things like that. I don't know, whatever. It's fine. I don't really care one way or the other. I don't care about any of this. I'm curious about Takeda. That's going to be an interesting one to get to because he's sort of he doesn't really fit into the Mortal Kombat 1 mold. You've got all these crazy theories trying to account for that. I don't know. Let's move on. Let's get on to, how about Vampire Survivors? This one, I don't know. Like if you've been in the Hellhole for a while, I've been playing Vampire Survivors slowly but surely. There's a Vampire Survivors playlist in the archive. Head over to YouTube or search for Hellhole Vampire Survivors. Hellhole's one word. You'll find the channel. You can get all the stuff you need. I've been digging Vampire Survivors, and I was just happened to be on Steam, and I noticed there was a trailer this month, which I didn't know about because I guess I'm just not paying attention to Vampire Survivors. Lo and behold, okay, I guess they're doing Among Us in Vampire Survivors or something. I don't know. I never really got into Among Us. It seemed like fun. I don't know. I feel like, there's just something about our times where there's so much about, like who can be the best liar, who can be the biggest scumbag, particularly in games. I feel like gamers are not digging their heels in to do the right thing at the best of times. I just wish there was a little bit more, Among Us is essentially who can be the best deceitful lying bastard, and it just irks me a little bit. As a video game, it's fine. You shouldn't read into it too much, and I'm not doing that. But it just, I liked Fall Guys. I got into Fall Guys because it was like a fun marathon, like it's just wacky games with little beans and everybody, there's competition, but you can just run. You don't even have to interfere with anyone. I don't know. I like that. How about some nice games? I'm a nice guy, okay? That's what I'm getting at. This looks fine. This is lots of fun. I don't really know what's going on here. I don't know how it all works. And did I see at the end there it's Switch and Xbox? No, it's on Steam as well. I'm forgetting. Yeah, I play this on PC. I forgot. I'm a PC game guy now. So it's coming to Switch soon. It's on Steam. Whatever. I haven't checked it out yet. I'll probably, I guess I got to download an update. I'll get into Vampire Survivors. There's still a lot of stuff in Vampire Survivors that I haven't done yet. I think it's a great game. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I like that I can just sort of, I can take a month off, dive back in, get back into it. Not too difficult. I know that, I know my progress. I know the things I'm trying to work on. I enjoy that. They just keep adding stuff. So this game is like, it's this low price. You get all this stuff. I already feel like there's an abundance of material there. And now there's this new thing. It looks really interesting and really fun. So I'm really happy with Vampire Survivors. I'm curious, I don't know how much longer this sort of DLC expansion cycle is going to last. I presume it ends with the vampire. Because the joke is sort of like, haha, tee, there's no vampires here. But they're expanding, so I would presume, surely you finish with the be-all, end-all, the big vampire. And there's something here about the story of, they're looking for the vampire in the moon, which reminds me of Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which, is an anime film that I really love. I'm always I don't know why, I always get in, an anime martial arts mood around the end of the year, like Christmas, New Year's. I've been doing it this year. I do it every year. Like last year, I was getting into Dragon Ball a lot. Not Dragon Ball Z, but Dragon Ball, which was never my favorite. But I got into it and I really loved it. I should have done it years ago. I don't know why I didn't. And this year, I've kind of been doing Street Fighter, King of Fighters, getting into some of the manga. I finally got Akira on Blu-ray. I'm not going to go on about what I got for Christmas. That feels like a jerky thing. I don't know. Is that just me? I feel like don't brag about what you got. Vampire Survivors is looking cool. The Among Us stuff is interesting enough. I don't know how in depth it goes. Is it just a map with some Among Us characters? I kind of can't tell if they're doing the Among Us style play. Is this an official thing? I don't think it is. No, I don't know. Is it? Can they get away with it? It's very clear what it's doing. Is this an official crossover? I got the impression this is not an official crossover, that it's just different enough. Now look, come on, the red bean thing, that's gotta be, surely. I don't know. Does it matter? Kind of does. I was watching a thing about plagiarism by, is it H Bomber Guy on YouTube? Very, very good work. Don't plagiarize, kids. It's disgusting. Regard these people with total contempt. And hold yourself to a higher standard. Nobody likes an also ran. How about we move on? Vampire Survivors is looking good. This is one that came along again. Another one that kind of just caught me by total surprise. I was not aware of it. So you guys probably know I'm always threatening. I'm a comic book guy. I love comics. And I'm an Australian. And in Australia, the Phantom is kind of an institution. American comic book, character from the 30s. Predates, Superman, Batman. Considered one of the first superheroes, created by Lee Falk. Another Lee Falk creation, Mandrake the Magician, is often considered one of the first superheroes. Although it's a tricky thing because, Mandrake the Magician is very much a classic magician in sort of a superhero adventurer type story premise. But so you go there, and then where does it stop? Because then you're talking about Zorro is the first superhero. Tarzan. Flash Gordon, all these things. They're all part of a pulp lineage. The Phantom is very much in that pulp lineage. A bit of an influence on a lot of characters, even like Batman. You would say there's a bit of an influence there. I don't know if it's totally acknowledged or admitted to. I like the Phantom a whole lot. I'm curious about this game. Motion comic style, not the most exciting sort of way to present a thing. It was funny because a few months ago I was on a Defenders of the Earth kick. The Phantom is a King Features Syndicate character, and they also own Flash Gordon, Mandrake the Magician, obviously the Phantom, and they put all those characters in the 80s into one cartoon sort of set in the future. The Phantom is generations of one family. Each son becomes the new Phantom as the father passes the mantle. Usually they die, and the son becomes the new Phantom. So the Defenders of the Earth was set in the future. I think it's I forget what number Phantom he is. So in the comics that you would have read, I think from typically, from the 30s to now, the newspaper strips, whatever, he was the 21st Phantom, which feels like we probably should have advanced from that, if I'm totally honest. Marvel did I think Marvel did the 23rd Phantom in the 90s, which was a bit weird because they sort of did that grim and gritty thing. There was also the Phantom 2040, who was the 24th Phantom, and I actually really enjoyed that. It rubbed me up the wrong way because it's sort of like it's this weird thing of take the Phantom, make it the future, but that's a great series. That's one of my personal favorite series. You know, like, again, it scratches that anime itch. It's got the Peter Chung thing, so it's not, you know, it's not anime, clearly, but Peter Chung, his influence kind of infuses it with a bit of that. And I was always curious too. Phantom 2040 has a lot in common with like Bubblegum Crisis, which is another one that I really like. And then you had Bubblegum Crisis Tokyo 2040. There's an interesting sort of like simpatico thing going on there. I wonder who was influenced by who. Interesting stuff. Let's talk about the Phantom video game though. So, motion comic style storytelling. The artwork is good quality. I enjoy that. It's nice to see the Phantom in color because, I mean, I think, you know, in Australia at least for a long time, the part of the appeal of the Phantom comics by Frew Publications was that they were sort of like newsprint, black and white, super cheap, available everywhere. I think every like 2 weeks a new issue. For the longest time, it was like $1.50. I think they're a little bit more now these days. A bit of inflation finally creeping in there, and I think. But Frew have been really interesting because for the longest time, Frew Publications were like a very old school kind of operation, very institutional for Australia, and so it was just kind of, even when comics started receding, you couldn't get, you know, I know like because news agencies used to sell like everything at one point, and then it receded sort of through the 90s and then the late 90s, early 2000s. Early 2000s is really like you can't get comics anywhere now. You got to go to a comic shop. You know, God willing, you have one. But the Phantom was always there. The Phantom was an institution. Phantom you get on like gas stations, you know, service stations, petrol stations, all kinds of places, supermarkets and stuff like that. But yeah, cheap, very old school. And then at some point they've gone like totally a different way. A lot of people know Phantom Frew. That it blows my mind. Like it used to be sort of like this little secret, you know, sort of thing. Maybe parts of Europe, like Sweden, I believe, they're very big. Norway, Phantom was very big. But now they're on like Steam and they're doing digital comics and there's color comics and there's these new collections that they put out that are really good. Sort of. Where they have like multiple characters. There's a version of the Shadow that always intrigued me as a kid. That's sort of back in print. They brought back all these other characters that was sort of like out of print for a long time, I think, at least around here. Let's talk about the game though. We're talking about lots of stuff. I think the game looks interesting. I think the biggest challenge here is like, so I was saying I was thinking about Defenders of the Earth, and I was sort of coming up with ideas for like almost like an NES style 8-bit by 16-bit, sort of like that upgraded thing. I was imagining levels and the 4 characters you would play as: the Phantom, Mandrake, Flash Gordon, and Lothar, and you would have different sort of benefits to each character. And I was, part of the appeal of that is just because like a Phantom game unto its own, the Phantom has like a cast of characters, particularly over maybe like I want to say the 80s and 90s, and I forget where those stories come from. If they're, I don't know if they're Swedish stories or Norwegian. I forget where, but they built up like a really strong. Actually, no, they're probably from the newspaper strips though. The American. There's a lot of Phantom stuff, and Frew pulls from it all. So, in any event, yeah, the Phantom. It's sort of a tricky one where there is an ecosystem around him. But he doesn't have a great cast of characters. He doesn't have like great recurring villains. The iconic villains are not, you know. I guess, you know, if you've seen the movie with Billy Zane, you know the Singh Brotherhood is the big one. With you know, just general piracy is one of his things. He's the Phantom swears an oath on the skull of his forefathers to fight piracy, cruelty, and injustice. So he's like he goes around adventuring and fighting general evils that would affect you and I even. But he doesn't have great villains. So going the beat 'em up, the scrolling belt scroller beat 'em up vibe, it's a curious choice to me because I feel like you need some good strong characters for like at least your stage bosses and stuff. I don't know who that would be for the Phantom. You know, like you see there's a tiger prowling around back there. Sometimes he wrestles animals and stuff. Usually he talks them down in the end. He's not like, you know, the Phantom has guns, but he doesn't kill like indiscriminately. It irked me when Moonstone did a comic, because in the first issue he's like throwing daggers in people's hands and stuff. He's not a bloodthirsty character, and he's like a crack shot marksman. So usually like he'll shoot guns out of people's hands, and he's like a you know, champion level boxer. So he'll fight. Everybody knows the skull ring leaves the mark on the bad guys. You know, that's interesting there. They showed like flashbacks. That's something I'm curious about this game. If to compensate maybe for the lack of characters, will they do like stages set in the past? Because you got the Phantom Chronicles from each generation of Phantom, and sometimes that was interesting. You'd get like issues of the comic would be the Phantom would check into the Chronicles to read about something maybe that would help him with a current case or something. He would find a similar case and find insight and knowledge from his forefathers. But you'd get adventures of like, you know, the swashbuckling Phantom of whatever generation, you know, like on boats and stuff with a big feathery hat. And I saw in there the Phantom in the trench coat, which looks right out of the Phantom Goes to War for the Second World War, which is not a great story in my mind. I was always disappointed by that, because for years you would hear about the Phantom Goes to War. I finally tracked it down, and it's just like, what is this, like some weird Japanese anti-Japanese thing? I presumed because the Phantom is sort of linked with Africa to some degree, I thought it would be Germans. You know, and I'm down for that. Slap a Nazi, whack him, put the bad sign on the Nazis. They'd probably enjoy it, those bastards. Let's not go down that road. I don't know how this game's going to go. Yeah, like, you know, the Phantom's he's a fighter, so that makes sense to some degree that he would be throwing punches. I just think a platformer might be more appealing. Obviously, the belt scroller is going to let you run around his world. You can see the Skull Cave in the background. We're in the jungle. That's cool. He's like fighting, you know, poachers, ne'er-do-wells. He's rough on roughnecks. Old jungle saying. You know, all that's going to come into it. Is that Diana on the horse with him? So maybe you can play as Diana. You got Devil with him, the wolf, Hero, the horse stages. That's cool. They're, you know, like, you know, I was getting all excited about Shinobi coming back, thinking of Shinobi 3 and the horse stage. You know that as a kid, like when I saw that, I was thinking, they could do a Phantom stage. You could ride a horse. I was thinking exactly that. Clearly they've done it. I think that's cool. So, yeah, I'm interested. I mean, I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. And it's interesting that, like, Limited Run have gotten involved. I gather there might be some sort of Australian connection, because Limited Run games come out retail here. So, which is nice, because, you know, when we got to compete with internationals and do, like, importing fees and stuff, that's a nightmare. And it feels like often we get hosed. Occasionally we get some sort of edge, and maybe this is it. It seems like Limited Run carry... or like JB Hi-Fi and places like, I mean, that's where I see them. I don't know if they're available elsewhere, but they have some sort of relationship with Limited Run where we can just easily access those games through retail, which is really good. So it intrigues me. I might end up buying the Phantom game on a disc, which is just not something I expected. This trailer seemed to come out of nowhere, because I saw it through some of the comic book stuff I do. Just happened to sort of come through those channels, and I figured, why not talk about it, because I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't heard about it, because this seemed like coming out of nowhere, and it's just kind of quietly bubbling away. I think you can wishlist it on Steam, so go do that if you think it looks interesting. I think the art style is really good. Like, the quality of the artwork is really good. The sprites, the game animations all look really good. I just, you know, it's not an immediate sell just by, you know, I need the game to satisfy as well. And I think I tracked down, there's an interview out there on YouTube somewhere with one of the guys developing it, maybe the spearhead behind the game, and he was saying, I think that Final Fight is one of the inspirations. I'm probably not technically minded enough to really talk about like the mechanics of that and how that, I think he was talking maybe about it like a harder hitting style of scrolling beat 'em up. I don't really know. So mechanical details like that might make this game really good, but I'm really looking for something that like conceptually stimulates the mind. How do you present a Phantom game? Because the Phantom is the interesting character. You know, like a Marvel game, you've got reliable, or a DC game, you've got villains coming in, and you know Doc Ock, Red Skull, Taskmaster, like at all these different levels, Doctor Doom, Sentinels, Magneto, whatever. You've got villains reliably filling out your stages. You think of like the X-Men scrolling beat 'em up game where you had like the Blob, Sentinels, Magneto, all that stuff. You've got like this huge cast of characters to get you through each levels. Even thinking of something like Streets of Rage 4, which had a similar vibe to this. You got all these characters to get you through each stage. You got environments. So the Phantom, jungle bound. He famously, he's the guardian of Eastern Dark. He goes to London. He goes to New York a lot. With Diana has family in New York. So there's a lot of environments that you'll find the Phantom in. So hopefully they're working that to keep the game fresh. I don't know. I'm very interested. I'm very intrigued. I just never imagined we would see a Phantom video game of this type at this time. I maybe didn't expect anything because it still feels like quite a niche character, even though he has like this. He's well known around the world. Australia, bit of an institution. Parts of Europe. There was like a theme park, I think, in Sweden or somewhere. I had a friend who was Swedish when I was a kid. Like his family, were into the Phantom. It was like a nice bit of bonding. I had a couple of friends that were into the Phantom, which was interesting because traditionally I don't have like a lot of friends who are into comics, so it's not something I bond with friends that much. So that was always quite fun. We made our own comics, so it was lots of fun. Maybe we'll talk about that sometime. I don't know. Is that very interesting? I like, they got good animations. The punches are really what you want to see from the Phantom. So he's doing some good punching work. But yeah, what else is there in this game? That's what we need to know. I don't know that I've got much more to say about that. We might as well move on to really the big one of December. The one that's really it's imminent. Tekken 8 is right around the corner, and Namco have just gone berserk. They've been dropping trailers all month. This is the story trailer, which for me is a very exciting thing. If you've been with me through the fighting game stuff, like I care about the story, I care about the characters. That's what really gets me into these games. So story mode trailer is really talking to me. I've said before that I have very mixed feelings about this sort of the tendency for Tekken and even some of the other major fighting game franchises to go sort of into this world war mode. Tekken is really like the one that's done it, where it's like it's these corporate entities led by these Tekken characters who are just like in these massive paramilitary, espionage exercises, just ruining the planet. And I guess it looks like there's a little bit of the ogre stuff coming back from Tekken 3. So it's like the ancient and the modern. I don't know, like I really miss the days when it was about a martial arts tournament, when it was about martial arts and martial arts style plots, but at the same time, this still tickles my fancy. I love these characters. I've been through all these games. Tekken 7, the story was really disappointing. The mode was like just appallingly short compared to other games, because Tekken has always spoiled us. Really, it starts in Tekken 3 when you get the Tekken Force mode, and then Tekken 4 just expanded that thing into like it could be its own game. Mortal Kombat did a similar thing with the Conquest mode and Deception and Armageddon, but Tekken's been doing it too. Tekken 5, Tekken 5's I forget what the game mode was called. Was it called Dark Resurrection or something about? I can't remember what the actual mode is called, where you play as Jin Kazama. You go through about 4 or 5 levels, but it really was like this is a game. You could release this at like a $60 and it would be a satisfying Tekken adventure game sort of thing. I loved that it wasn't, because it, as an extra, it was just above and beyond. That game gets like an 11 out of 10, for presentation. No shit sandwich, crank it up to 11. Hopefully Tekken 8 is a return to form. It looks like there's a lot going on there. Again, a little disappointed with the sort of the world war element. I like just, traveling around the world, doing martial artsy kind of things, but it helps to have these sort of these unifying principles that can bring the characters together rather than sending characters out to go to the others sort of thing. I probably could have articulated that a little bit better, but let's carry on. The Hellhole imagery has been a little bit Jin Kazama, a little bit Kazuya Mishima. I love Kazuya. He's like my favorite. I like Jin too. I thought it was cool when Jin was like training in Brisbane or something in Tekken 4 to redevelop his style, you know, all that kind of stuff. I love so many of these characters. I think the Vincent Cassell character is a great addition. If you want to see what I thought about that, we did look more closely at him. I think he's really good. Victor something. I think he's a cool addition, and he sort of fits in with this sort of global element. And I say I don't love that they've gone this way, but I think they're doing interesting things with it. It's interesting to sort of have Victor and Raven, and this sort of like the overseers of the world and sort of thing. That is such a cheesy shot. That flat side shot of them all running along. I don't know what they're thinking with that. Cool to see, Devil Kazuya's got like a new design. Look at that. That's crazy. Look at that. I love that. That's crazy. It's insane. I don't want to lose Kazuya as a character, and I want the standard Kazuya, but, what does that look like? That reminds me of something like out of Guyver or one of the Sentai series or something. Like, it's insane. And I presume we're going to get like the big fight with Jin and Kazuya as usual. It always comes back to the Mishimas. Didn't they say Tekken 7 was going to be like the last Mishima thing? I think they've said that before. It always comes back. I really enjoyed Tekken 6. I thought the campaign mode of Tekken 6 was a lot of fun and did it well. Look at this! Look at that. That's insane. Something about that really tickles my fancy. Hey, Leroy. I like Leroy. He's cool. Glad he's in there. There's a couple of characters that are really good to get in there. Let's I guess we should move on. Let's get into the character trailers, because we don't want to be here all night. It's already like well into 2 a.m. End of the year. It's been a nice Christmas. I've been trying to relax, as best I can. Having a nice time. I watched Blue Beetle. That was kind of nice, So Detox, a Stallone movie that I've been curious about for a long time, I watched Red Corner. That was kind of interesting. Here we got Sergei Dragunov. Speaking of international intrigue, what a spooky looking fella this guy is. It's interesting the way he's drifted a little bit from that. Was it Tekken 5 that introduced Sergei? Or was it 6? I forget now. Initially, it might have been 6. He was, or was it 5 Dark Resurrection? I can't remember. Good God. In any event, yeah, he was more of like a military guy, and now he feels like he's sort of drifted from that. He's loosened up a little. He's a curious character. I don't know is there an inspiration behind Sergei? I'm not really sure. He's not the cliche Russian. I like this little standoff between Victor and Sergei. That feels like a good natural combination. It's always nice when these characters can sort of slot in and have natural chemistry and maybe generate something new out of that. And I feel like the addition of Victor is great for this sort of international intrigue, espionage kind of side of Tekken that has maybe been a little bit underdeveloped. Raven sort of introduced some of that, and Sergei expands upon it. I feel like DOA did a little bit more of that with like Bayman, Leon, some of those characters, and I guess DOA Tech and all that stuff. But this is cool. I like this little rivalry. This is pretty good. You always want some good rivals in a fighting game. Mortal Kombat could do a little bit more with that, I think. Sergei, definitely not your traditional, it's not Ivan Drago, even though his name's like Sergei Dragunov. He's got a very cliche name. Interesting look. Jeez, he's a cadaverous sort. I don't know, has he been living on the tundra or something? I don't think this guy's been pile driving bears. I don't know, polar bears or whatever. He's no Zangief. And I don't know, is Dragunov a bad guy? Is he a good guy? Is he sort of a little bit ambiguous? I imagine he's trending more towards a bad guy these days. I don't know. That's just a sense I have. I don't know that, again, I'm not really technically minded to comment on these characters. It looks like there's some interesting stuff going on with Dragunov. I always like Bayman in DOA, just I guess something aesthetically about that, and his status is sort of like a mercenary type. I like the Sambo fighting style. Is there a little bit of Sambo in that stance? Looks like he's ready to catch his catch can. No, he's ready to lay a lock on. I like the little belly crawl as well. He's doing a lot of strikes. I don't know. Tekken's gonna Tekken. Just mash the buttons. That's what everybody does still, isn't it? Eddie, is that? There's no Eddie Gordo. We gotta get Gordo back. Or maybe he is. Maybe I'm forgetting. There he is, Dragunov fighting Raven. Raven's cool. I like Raven. So Dragunov's actually very striker based by the look of it. Victor's got his laser sword. Everybody on board with that? I think it's fine. Whatever. We'll see one of the precedents for that real soon. I don't know that I've got much more to say about Dragunov. He's not one of my favorite characters, but it's good that he's there. I'm sure it'll come in handy. Certainly plays well into that the international scope and the sort of paramilitary scope of everything that's going on. I don't know if he's going to be leading like some sort of soldiers or forces, or is he like so many of these characters, is he just going to wind up lumped in with like either what is it, G-Tech? No. What are the corporations? G Corporation and the Mishima Zaibatsu and all that. Is he just going to be an agent for one of them? I'm not really sure. I forget where he ended up at the end of Tekken 6 or even 7. I gotta do some catching up, do some research, refresh the old memory. I've followed a lot of this stuff over the years. Hey, don't look at me like that. Get out of here, Dragunov. Let's move on to Shaheen, another newer character, and another one that sort of fits in well with the sort of international scope. I mean, you got to remember too, like Tekken is essentially a Virtua Fighter knockoff, and I feel like both of them clearly owe a huge debt to Street Fighter 2 in particular, as really all fighting game franchises do these days. Where would we be without SF2? Good times. The Desert Falcon, Shaheen, a little bit like. Oh no, I'm drawing a blank now. Who is the newer Street Fighter character? I'm disgracing myself. Is it Rashid? Yeah. So we've kind of got we got Shaheen and Rashid in Street Fighter. So it's sort of like an awakening in some ways to a section of the world that these international fighting games haven't addressed. There's still a few corners of the globe. I think of like, it'd be interesting to get an African fighter in there. It feels like that's timely, but also overdue. Street Fighter 3 did Elena. That would be one of the big African characters that I can think of. Why she was a capoeira fighter, I'm not sure. And I found her a little bit dull personally, a little bit uninteresting. I still think Mortal Kombat, sitting on some untapped potential with Kai. I think Kai could be an interesting. I always thought like he's sort of presented as an American. Basically, let's pretend that never happened and re-envision him as sort of like a Zulu warrior. He's got like give him the handstand moves that he's got, but then maybe throw in like a shield. I think that would be really cool. I don't know. I'm fanficking again. Here we got Shaheen looking pretty interesting. Of a type. He's a certain archetype that doesn't feel worlds away from Rashid. I do enjoy the cliche and the sort of stereotypical characters that you find in these fighting games. I like when a character is distilled into like a national identity and some aspect of that. I liked when Street Fighter was really a good Street Fighter character was a strong national identity of some type, a strong martial arts identity, preferably a style that is appropriate for that nation and that kind of thing. And it feels a little bit like Shaheen and even Rashid sort of, they kind of get into that. They're not adventurous characters. They're not overly complex from what I gather. But a good addition. I'm digging it. I like to see that in there. And check out, I mean, this background's kind of blowing my mind too. I guess is it appropriate for the Desert Falcon to be in the desert? Makes sense to me. It seems like he's a little bit of a reluctant warrior. That makes some sense. I just dig, the aesthetic difference, the vibe. I like the headdress and all that. Looks like he's got some interesting moves. A little bit like Rashid. He's quite like an active, nimble character. Some interesting sort of like dives and kicks and jumps and leaps. Kind of reminds me of Rashid. He's got more of like a wind theme going on. This guy, I don't know what Shaheen's deal is. If he has some sort of, he's got like it's very similar in a lot of ways. Whirling kicks and things. That move's interesting where he like dives on the back. I don't know that I have any great insights. I just think it's cool. I like the red headdress. That looks really cool with like the sort of, you know, beige trouser and the dark sort of vest, long hanging bits. I just dig that. Maybe because of where I'm from, that this seems exotic to me. And I like seeing characters with like layers of fabric, because it feels like fighting games still don't do a lot of that. I'm always looking at. I keep going back to Mortal Kombat. I'm always thinking like, give me a good katana that's got like layers of fabric with flowing princess-like, you know, gear. We're not talking about that now. We're talking about Sheen. He's got it. I mean, that's the thing. Tekken has delivered. Looks pretty good. I don't know. It's now a good time to mention I got a Kazim for Christmas. There's Kazim, everybody. Well, maybe we'll talk about that another time. Fezzes and headdresses. That's all I need. I'm happy. Maybe throw in give me a character with like a turban. I'm happy. Instant interesting character. That's so cheap. I don't know. I just think it's a cool look. And this guy's got maybe like a little bit of a military background or something, so he fits in with all these sort of characters. It'd be interesting to see like what is his chemistry with somebody like Victor, the French character. Interesting history between like the Middle East and France and all of those sort of overlapping things. Interesting to see how he fits in with the overall story. This background is really cool with like, yeah, check that out, with like the big hand, the big statue. It's almost got a little bit of a Mortal Kombat vibe. It reminds me of like Jade's Desert. There's a little bit of what we've been experiencing recently with Chronica and stuff, and the Sands of Time and stuff like that. Very interesting. This almost feels like maybe the Kotal Khan era of the Colosseum in Outworld. I mean, look at that back. That is straight up. You know, this one is maybe a little bit more in keeping with the Roman Colosseums or something. Also reminded me, we had the Colosseum in Street Fighter 6. So it seems to just be everybody's got to have the Colosseum now, which, you know, why not? This looks like to be a straight up Roman Colosseum. Is Kazuya moved to Italy and taken over or something? I don't know what's going on there. It looked like he was sitting presiding over events. So this is cool. I mean, look at this. This is great. He's got a cool like curved sword. Doesn't look like a scimitar. I don't know what kind of sword is that. I'm not sure. It's not a kukri. That's another interesting sort of like regional weapon. Hey, speaking of swords, you know, the Tekken trailers keep coming. The game is out next month. Sadly, I'm probably not going to be playing it because I haven't got myself a PS5 yet. It's maybe one of the first really compelling reasons to get a PS5. I hate to say it. You know, like PlayStation is my console of choice, but it's just not getting it done. And it's a lot of money. But hey, we got Yoshimitsu. Very good. He's ready for battle. And just looking as bizarre as ever, man. I love that Tekken and Street Fighter maintain their characters. You got very iconic characters, instantly recognizable characters. They don't change a great deal. In recent games, I feel like they've been sweating Mortal Kombat. They are starting to redesign their characters a little bit. And I like the way that maybe, particularly Street Fighter, is sort of advancing their characters forward a little bit. They're maturing and reflecting that in their appearance. I like that generally, though, all these characters are iconic, but Yoshimitsu, he's the one that changes wildly game to game. I like that as a character gimmick. And he's had some wild looks. This one, you know, it's not worlds apart from somebody else. If you know this is Tekken, you immediately identify that's Yoshimitsu, as much as he's changed over the years. I liked, he had sort of like he almost had like a Spanish Day of the Dead vibe at one point, Mexican Day of the Dead vibe, Sugar Skull kind of thing going on at one point. It was sort of, but then it goes like Predator, and it's sort of sci-fi. It's a little bit Guyver. You know, we was talking about Kazuya before. That'd be a good matchup, Yoshimitsu and Devil Kazuya. And of course, they're maintaining the great rivalry between Yoshimitsu and his cyborg nemesis, Brian Fury. That's a classic rivalry from Tekken 3. Look at this. So he's got a cursed blade. Who doesn't like a bit of that? That's cool. You know, getting mixed up with his Manji clan and all that stuff. Almost reminds me of the blood sword from. I think it's called Tales of Blood Sword or something, but I think it's called Chinese Hero here, with the red sword, the blood sword or whatever. That's cool. I mean, again, I don't have any great technical points. I imagine, a nice thing about Tekken is that generally, if you've played one, you've played them all to some degree. They update things, they tweak things here and there, and it's developed a little bit, but game to game, most of your favorite moves are going to be there in some form without too much changing. And I imagine Yoshimitsu will continue to be the same bizarre character. The only character that has a harakiri, I believe, in the Tekken series. This is a very Mortal Kombat style background. I think I've mentioned that before, with sort of like the dark Asian aesthetic. Dark Forest, the fire. It reminds me a little bit of the Dark Forest that was in Mortal Kombat 1. I like this background now. I like these. I like a few of these backgrounds. I feel like there was a little bit of that sort of Mortal Kombat flavor started creeping in with Tekken 5. There was like the dark campfire stage that reminded me a little bit of Mortal Kombat. And what's his name? There is a character. Let's see if I can find it. Feng Wei. He felt like a little bit of a Mortal Kombat character. He was almost more Mortal Kombat than Mortal Kombat is now. I like Feng Wei. He's cool. I forget, is he in Tekken 8? I think he is. Be interesting to see what he's up to. I like Feng Wei a lot. I like the way he plays. He's got those nice tight little jumping kicks and stuff, but he's also like a hard-hitting kind of character, and learning the secret techniques, that kind of thing appeals to me. I think that's one of the reasons I liked. I keep thinking of Wang Jinrei, but what is it? Shit, man. I keep forgetting his name. Feng Wei. I think I liked Feng Wei because he was like a throwback to the martial arts characters. His concerns are martial arts focused. He wants the ultimate technique, the sacred scrolls of the ancient technique. He's like a throwback to like the classic kung fu movies. So I really like that. Hopefully he'll be back into that mode. I think he got sucked into everything else. That's Yoshimitsu anyway. We should move on to the last one.
Peggy 16.
There might be some more. I think there was an official pre-order trailer. Tekken 8 is also bringing out a demo, I think it's already out. I'm not sure. It might be out. So check out the Tekken 8 demo if you're interested. I mean, I don't need a demo to tell me that Tekken is looking good. Tekken is usually a bit of a safe bet. Tekken 7 disappointed me a little bit. I feel like maybe Tekken 8 is learned from what they got wrong and is hopefully delivering a more robust story at the very least. I don't know what other kind of extras there'll be. There might be some DLC later on that fills that out. It'll be interesting to see what Tekken 8 does with its DLC characters. A lot of the great characters are back here, and you can see Kuma is back. We saw Kuma very early, I feel like, in Tekken 8. So I was a little surprised to see a character trailer. Just showing off some of the moves, I guess. Nice little bit of a jaw grab. Some nice bear swipes. Feels pretty typical for Kuma, maybe a bit more flair and flavor. The big change to Kuma is the design, and I really like that there's like a tribute to Heihachi Mishima. The voice actor died. I think they have officially retired Heihachi Mishima, which to me feels appropriate because we've been struggling to move on from that character and the Mishima dynamic for so long. It seemed like a good excuse to finally move on from it and retire that character. But I love that there's a tribute. You get the tiger gi of Heihachi on his beloved dancing bear Kuma. Kuma's going to honor his master and fight on in his name. I think that's a really nice little tribute. And it's a good way to jazz up Kuma. Gives Kuma a little bit more flavor, you know. He kind of stagnated for a while there, always after Panda. Doing his little dance, getting into mischief with Paul Phoenix. But apart from that, what's going on with this? With like the rocket fish? I don't know what's going on. Sure, why not? So what? Kuma's gonna marry Panda. I mean, I love these little subplots, and I like all the character-driven stuff. I like the natural interconnection of characters and the development of rivalries and friendships and stuff like that. But Tekken really did. It's so Heihachi, it's so Kazuya, it's all the Mishima stuff. It's the Mishima drama. And
Peggy
I'm
16.
very conflicted. I think they've added another Mishima, which is kind of running up. They've added a Mishima. They've brought back Jun Kazama in some capacity, maybe just as a vision. I don't know. Although, is she playable? I don't know. It's all... Let's leave dead characters dead. How about that? That might be nice. And let's not add more Mishimas. We got the Swedish guy who's a Mishima now. We got more kids. Let's branch out in other ways. And like I was saying, the other plot lines then tend to stagnate. You get the same thing game after game. Like Kuma's still trying to get Panda. Ganryu's still trying to impress. Is it Ling Xiaoyu? We got to advance some of these characters more. So maybe they're going to do that in Tekken 8. Again, like, you know, Tekken is Tekken. Kuma looks like he's Kuma, and that's good enough for me. I'm happy with that. I like some of the little changes I'm seeing. Some of those moves look a little bit different, and I like the flourishes, the claw swipes, the slashes of water, and all that kind of stuff. I like the little changes. I have very mixed feelings about video game plot lines that revolve around characters proposing relationships or marriage and then beating the shit out of their would-be spouse. It reminds me of Mortal Kombat 2011, where like Johnny Cage is hitting on Sonya and then she rejects him, so he fights her. Oh, listen, you know, it's a fictional premise. It's a video game. It's a fighting game. You gotta have fights. That's fine, but let's just be careful, okay? Be careful what we're making light of here. If somebody rejects you, that's fine. Let it go. Do not immediately go into your fight animation and transition into a combat mode. Don't do it, okay? Be cool. Those have been the game trailers from December. I don't know what's the standout. I mean, I guess the Tekken 8 story mode is really what's got me excited. Looks like it's clearly much more robust than Tekken 7, which was really just like a recap of Mishima beats with like just very, very minimal stuff. Hopefully this is a return to form, a return to like Tekken 6 campaign mode, which I really loved that. I thought the mode was fantastic. The story was fine. They give you something for each character, and that's what I'm looking for. That's what I enjoy. And it looks like it looks like it's going full on kaiju movie with Devil Kazuya, which I have mixed feelings about, because I like these things where they like operate in a secret world, but then like, you know, you can't. They were all sort of like secret martial arts tournaments. I guess you've got to have your own flavor. Look at this though. This is insane. The World War Tekken continues. Hopefully it's going to be a good time. I mean, usually it's a good time. And it comes out next month, I think. So not long now, kids. If you've been waiting, like I said, I think this could be a reason to get a PlayStation 5 if you haven't. I think I'm still a ways off. It's too rich for my blood. I don't know. Like and subscribe and do all that. Ring the bell. Help me get there. Maybe. I don't know. Look how cool that looks. I mean, it's over the top, but man. And then you got this new character who's all about, you know, drinking coffee. It's the extremes. It's the extremes. But hey, look, if there's a world war, it's going to affect the price of coffee in Brazil or whatever, you know. Wherever. No, she's not Brazilian. I forget where she's from. It's just an example, okay? Just relax. Hey, there's Feng Wei throwing down with Leroy. See, that's beautiful. I love that. Within the chaos, there's still the beautiful flavor of those martial arts rivalries. I love it. I love it. This is good stuff. If you want to be here for more of this kind of stuff, make sure you follow and subscribe. Seriously, do all that stuff. Check out the archive on YouTube. Nobody gives a damn about me playing Spider-Man, apparently. That's fine. I don't expect you to abandon Christmas for that. I had a nice time. It was terrible. It was mortifying. I did not succeed in any regard. But, you know, I had fun playing. I might go back to Spider-Man because I want to make some progress, and I'm going to have to apply myself to do that. I've been playing Rocket League offline, and boy howdy, I took 2 months off Rocket League. It was almost, I think it was 2 months to the day, like Christmas. I thought, I'm in the mood for some Rocket League. I'm going back in. It has been a nightmare. I have lost all ability, all skill. You know, It's just embarrassing. I might as well have been streaming because it was that bad. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get on streaming and it just all goes wrong. Hopefully we'll play something that I can manage. I'm going to go back to Street Fighter 6. I really want to conclude Street Fighter 6 World Tour, so we're going to be doing that into the new year. Unfortunately, my plans really got derailed by some of the problems I've been having, and just the season, and just the challenges. But we persevere. I like a bit of variety. I was watching the thing about plagiarism, and there's always sort of like occasionally I get a bit of advice. Maybe you could do this, and it would be a little bit more successful. Maybe you could do that, but I kind of as much as I would love to have like 100,000 subscribers and be able to get some, like ad revenue and stuff like that to actually, cover the cost of things, technology and all that stuff, because it's always tricky. As much as I would love to do that, I just cannot bring myself to do that. I got to do what I got to do. I need a little bit of variety within my own interests. I've got to find some joy. That's what we're here for. The Hellhole is kind of like a hangout. I'm looking for like-minded people, and you don't necessarily have to like all the things I like. Like I said earlier, I didn't necessarily have a lot of comic book friends, but I had a couple of comic book friends. It's nice to have friends with mutual interests that you bond over. So if you like a bit of Vampire Survivors, come and get it. Tell me what you're thinking about Vampire Survivors. I want to hear from you. If you like a bit of Street Fighter 6, give me the tips. Say hi. Do all that sort of stuff, and then maybe I do something you're not aware of, and I love the thought that maybe you discover something out of that. We check out some of these game trailers, month to month. I don't know if I necessarily am going to do that all the time, but I'm enjoying checking things out and just having a reason to just like yak it up for an hour. Just sit here talking to the ether. Maybe you agree with something. Maybe I hit on something that you weren't thinking about. Leave a comment. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me if maybe you liked something I had to say. The demo's out now. Tekken 8 demo is out now. Game's out January 26th, so I didn't pay attention to that. No, I know. This has been the Hellhole. We might get one more in before the end of the year. I'm having a nice holiday. I hope you're having a nice holiday and enjoying yourself, finding something to enjoy. Definitely get out there and just find the joy in something. That's what I'm telling you, man. That's what it's all about. The Hellhole is not about the scorching inferno burning you from your soul. It's about finding something to enjoy, to repel the hell. That's what it's about. I don't know. I'm rambling now. Adios, amigos. Godspeed, Spider-Man.